A little over a year ago, on November 8th, 2018, at 6:30 in the morning, during a California high wind event after a long hot summer in the Feather River Canyon, one of the lines broke along the Caribou-Palermo 115,000 volt high tension power lines. That line fell and hit the side of the tower, dropped a shower of sparks into the dry grass below. That happened along Camp Creek Road, and that was the beginning of California's deadliest wildfire, the Camp Fire. The fire started about 6:33 in the morning. It was when one of the steel rings holding up the stack of insulators that held up one of the power lines on that high-tension steel power pole failed during the high winds that were experienced in that day, wind speeds exceeding 50 miles an hour, that initiated the cascade of events that started the Camp Fire. That spark started the grass underneath the power line. That fire raced down the Feather River Canyon, following the winds, entered near the town of Pulga, what's called Flea Canyon. The fire then exploded up out of Flea Canyon in the dry, flashy fuels that was found there, because that area had been previously burned, and then raced westward across the town of Concow, and then within 2 hours, jumped the 1 mile wide West Fork Feather River, west branch of the Feather River, entering the town of Paradise, taking out the town of Paradise and burning 20,000 acres in that first day, and causing 85 fatalities. The fire went on to burn for 17 days, eventually consuming 153,000 acres and causing over $16 billion in damage. An evacuation attempt was made of trying to get 52,000 people out of the way of this fast-moving fire, as there was no time to react. There was no time to fight the fire on day one. Everybody was simply running for their lives. So I recently returned to the town of Paradise and Magalia with childhood friend Gary, and we took a look around and see how are things going with the rebuild in the area. Will folks return? At the time of the fire, Paradise had a population of around 27,000 people. By the end of next year, they're expecting the population to be about 4,800 folks. This is one of the nicer neighborhoods near where I live in Nevada City, California. At approximately the same elevation and same topography as the Paradise Magalia area. After visiting Paradise, it's now very easy to visualize how this will look like after the big fire hits. And this is a good example of what a typical neighborhood looks like in the Paradise Magalia area today. And this level of destruction is not isolated. It goes on for miles and miles. Safeway, long gone, all cleaned up. Despite the grim reality that is the result of the campfire, there are some signs of hope. A few homes that are being rebuilt, and a few homes that survived the fire entirely. So here's what Gary and I found out about the current state of rebuilding in Paradise and Magalia and Concal today. It's Tuesday, the 5th of November. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blancolirio channel. We're here in Paradise, California, on nearing the 1-year anniversary of the campfire. I've got childhood friend Gary along with me today. Say hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
He's going to be hopefully our cameraman, aren't you, Gary?
Yep.
And you're going to hold it steady this time?
No, I never held it before in my life.
He's on his modified Yamaha XT. I got the CB 500X. We're going to show you around Paradise. We had a very interesting... And Magalia. Gary's a resident of Magalia. He did not get burned out. He's on the edge of the fire, but he survived, and he knows some interesting places to go see.
Yeah.
Well, if you think Gary's a little odd, well, you're right. While we had a blast learning to ride dirt bikes together as kids, Gary would take the occasional run from the police with our unplated dirt bikes and turn that into a career. But today, Gary is celebrating 23 years of clean and sober living. For that, I'm very proud of him. Despite the rumors of Paradise's demise, Paradise lost, and all that narrative, there are businesses back in business. Starting back about March, Walgreens got back into business here. AutoZone is back in business. Starbucks got in business right away. This is on Skyway Boulevard. Come over here, Gary.
AutoZone was one of the first ones.
AM/PM Market, however, is gone. Both AM/PM Markets are gone. So there's basically enough businesses to run the town of Paradise at its current population right now.
Right.
Next, Gary will take us up to Magalia, his neighborhood, and show us what this area looked like before the fire. We're in Magalia now, and Gary's showing us a representation of what the general area looked like before the fire.
Yeah.
It's dense housing and dense trees.
Yep.
So it's more than just Paradise, of course, that was impacted by the fire. We got the communities of Magalia, Concal. Gary, was there some other communities you can name off too? And all the surrounding areas?
Forest Ranch.
Forest Ranch, yeah.
Yeah.
So this
Orville,
is the before picture.
Concal. Yeah.
Next, we'll go check out some logging operation on the east side of Magalia. You knucklehead. Here they're removing a lot of the logs. This is the edge of the canyon where the fire came ripping up out of the canyon. We'll show you another better view up here. They're clear cutting here where the fire came up out of the canyon. This is just up above Dogtown. We believe it's Dogtown Reservoir. Dogtown Road is right down there. Fire coming up out of the canyon and attacking the town of Magalia. Here's these large log decks. Now on private property, they are requiring people to remove the dead and dying trees on your private property, especially those that are going to land on your easements. But they are saying that you cannot keep large log decks on your property for a long time. You got to get the wood removed, in other words. You got to get it removed quickly. Now, I don't know if this is private property or government property or what it is, but this is a huge logging operation going on here now.
Huge. And yeah, look at all those burned trees. See, they're taking all those out.
Right. So all
burned trees like that.
So all the burned trees along all the major right-of-ways, most of them have already been removed. There's still some yet to go. And this is what a lot of these neighborhoods look like today. We're still in the Magalia area on the north edge of the fire. This neighborhood is nearly completely wiped out. The source of the fire came from that direction. We saw one house being rebuilt up there. We'll go take a look at that. So the population of Paradise was about 26,000 people. Today, or by the end of this year, they're estimating it to be about 4,000 or 5,000 folks.
Yeah.
The toxic waste truck parade is just about finished. They've just about cleaned out all the toxic waste out of all of these lots. This is where you see some of the anti-erosion control on top of these sites here. So what they did is that you either had the government program option or do it yourself, pay it for yourself, for them to come to get the toxic cleanup on your site. The toxic cleanup, of course, was required. You had to cut the dirt down to the bottom of the foundation. The soil then had to be tested, and then if the contamination was still found, they had to dig some more. So some of these sites dug quite deep. There is no fill yet to make your lot level again, so some of these lots have quite a big dip in them and are going to require some fill dirt to rebuild on. Yeah. Now, as you know, as a civil engineer, building on fill requires compaction and adds cost to the rebuild. Right now, it looks like, according to the folks last night at last night's meeting, the folks that are rebuilding, the few that are saying they're estimating that they're going to be able to get that rebuild done at a cost of about $250 to $260 per square foot. Now, a lot of folks are going for the manufactured home option and are getting in estimates as low as $180 per square foot. But you need three basic things, of course, infrastructure-wise, before you can rebuild: power, water, and sewer. Water, the Paradise Irrigation District is working at continuing to test for benzene. They're making progress every day. They're able to get more water to more customers. It's the testing of the benzene because of the melted plastic lines that were the problem. The main lines are okay. It's the distribution lines to all the houses that need to be tested and replaced if they test bad for benzene. And they're going through that process right now and getting that first to the houses that remain and later to the houses that will eventually be rebuilt. Power's back up. PG&E did a great job of getting the power up real quick. It's back up on the power poles, but they're also working on a 5-year effort to bury all these power lines. So over the next 5 years, all these overhead power lines will eventually be buried.
And we'll go look at that underground.
You got an underground part they're working on? Yeah, they're working on undergrounding it right now. Finally, sewer. Most all of these lots are on septic systems. Those septic systems, most of them got trashed during the fire. The plastic that runs the sewer lines melted. If that wasn't bad enough, when they came in here and cleaned up the toxic waste, they smashed what was left of the sewer lines, the septic system. Typically, when you have a septic system that's failed, you have to abandon it. Once it's abandoned, you have to find another area to rebuild a new septic system. So those are the three major infrastructure things you need right now. But Gary, come on over here with that camera. Some folks are being allowed, see the camper over there?
Not too well.
Some folks are being allowed to live in a trailer on their property. It's not quite resolved just yet. You can temporarily now get on your property in a trailer, but eventually you're going to need those three items: sewer, water, and power, to your trailer before you can live in an extended period in a trailer on your property. So that's some of the issues facing the rebuild here in the Paradise Magalia campfire area. We'll go find some more spots next and cut. So a lot of people are choosing not to rebuild and just sell instead and move on. They've collected their insurance money, they still have the lots, they still own the lots. They're gonna sell and move on.
Oh, somebody come up here and make me cry.
Yeah, you knew this neighborhood, huh?
Yeah, I live in this neighborhood. Look at
You
that.
lived, yeah.
Look at there's a car right there.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, this is where the cars got caught in the fire on the road, melted the asphalt. This was Gary's neighborhood. Where they stockpiled a lot of the burned up cars. Wherever you see a burned spot in the asphalt is where one of these cars caught fire, and they're storing them here temporarily. So then we stopped and had a chat with this builder here, and he was able to verify a couple things for us. One, building fees are on the order of about $12,000 to $15,000 to get your project off the ground in Butte County. Two, for rebuilds, it's taking about 1 month to get your plans through the Butte County Planning Office. And three, finding the labor to get the job done is a real challenge. Next, Gary challenged me to a trail ride just north of Magalia. Though there's been a lot of forest mitigation issues done around town, the forests just outside of town are still terribly overgrown. Logged areas surrounding the heavy forest is still loaded with light, flashy fuels, a strong accelerant. So here we're doing a little trail riding along the edge of a logged area. So that's the light, flashy fuel that got this fire really going closer from the Concow area and into the forest. So when you log and you leave these weeds, that provides the accelerant to get the fire going with the wind into the trees and burn the whole place down. Looking east towards Pulga, way over there, through those canyons, and that light fuel, this fire came ripping from the main fork of the Feather across this west fork of the Feather River, right up into Magalia and Paradise.
And down over into the Butte Creek Canyon.
Yeah, all the way down to Butte Creek and crossed it, right? All the way pretty much down to the edge of Chico. Here on Billy Road, they're working on the PG&E power undergrounding the power. And also right down here, they're also having to redo all the gas lines. They got to bury all new PG&E gas lines. So one day in the next 5 years, all these overhead power lines will be underground here in the Paradise area. What was this? The Center for Spiritual Living. It's long gone.
I used to live right next door to this church.
Yeah. This is Butte Creek Canyon on the west side of Paradise, where the fire roared all the way down through here on the way to Chico. There's a couple of standing houses that survived back over there, and it's more a matter of luck and vegetation close to the house. How much vegetation right close to the house do you have? Will make a big difference as to whether it survives or not. At the end of Billy is Cliff Drive here, and it looks like PG&E has already got these lines buried along Cliff Drive. That could be the gas lines, but
They put them together.
it would make sense to put them both together. That's right. Now some of these trees are still alive. They still got to determine which ones are going to die, and they'll have to get them removed if they don't make the cut. If they looks like they're not going to make it, they're going to have to remove them, and you're going to have to get the logs off your property. If you have dead and dying trees over your private driveway, those will have to be removed as well. There's a government program for that, but it's only approximately about $2,000 per acre, which for most parcels will not cover the cost completely of removing the dead and dying trees that are a hazard to your own driveway or right-of-way. Now we'll roll into the interior part of Paradise and see how the burying of the utilities is going. Yeah, this is Paradise proper, what the neighborhoods look like here now.
Yeah.
They're still working those trees down there, just dropping them. Utilities up there. And we soon caught up to the crews that were doing the underground utility work. Underground utilities are going in. gas, the yellow line there, power, and cable. Each one will get its own PVC pipe, and then it'll be backfilled with sand. Then they blow a parachute through there with air to get your line through there to start dragging or winching the actual wires through the conduits, and then the overhead cables will then come down. I've heard estimates that it will take approximately 5 years to bury the 75 miles of power lines in this area. Next, Gary and I roll over to the east side of town and take one more look at the West Branch Feather River Canyon. So now we're on the west side of Paradise. There's the west branch of the Feather River down there. Concow off that way. The fire came from that direction, from the east, and the hot embers jumped this massive canyon and got rip-roaring up this slope here, hit these homes on the edge, and took out most of Paradise.
Took it all.
Here Gary spies a little sifter behind his garbage can and explains its significance.
This little, like, sifter, a little screen, like where just people are digging up their ashes and their ruins and sifting through them and looking for little mementos or jewelry that they knew, or where they had like maybe that was the bedroom area and they had a jewelry box full of gold that maybe they find grandma's ring or something, you know. I know people that have found little bits and pieces of their life in little boxes like that, and that's kind of a little one.
Yeah.
Sit there and sift through it.
Yeah. Finally, we wrap this up at the site of the former Adventist Health Feather River Hospital, where Nurse Dean and the entire staff of the hospital safely evacuated all their patients. Here's the Feather River Hospital, where Dean and the staff safely evacuated all the patients out of here during the fire. It's still closed down at this time. At this time, I have no idea what the future is for this facility. So I hope this gave you a little better understanding of the current situation here in Paradise, California, Concow and Magalia, the campfire area. It's hard to visualize it like Gary was trying to explain to me. You just can't visualize it looking through a little tiny lens like we did today, and unless you actually come up here and see it or live through it.
It's horrible.
Yeah, now you escaped to the north. You didn't go through any of the fire.
Nope.
But you've talked to plenty of people who have,
Yeah.
and they are still terrified to this day what happened here. So we'll keep you posted as we get more updates on this. Thanks for watching. See you here.